Imagine inheriting the most powerful job on earth. You're handed an empire that stretches from rainy Britain to the deserts of North Africa. Your dad is basically the gold standard of leadership. The Senate expects greatness. The army expects discipline. The people expect stability. And then you, the new emperor, look at all that responsibility and say, you know what Rome really needs? Me. In the arena. Shirtless. Doing a celebrity fight night. Today on Royal Idiots, we're talking about Commodus, the Roman emperor who inherited the keys to the greatest empire in the Mediterranean and used them to turn Rome into his personal stage show. Welcome to Royal Idiots, the podcast where we explore the most powerful bad decisions in history. I'm your host, Melissa, and today we're looking at the life of Commodus. Alright, let's set the scene, because Commodus doesn't make sense unless you understand what Rome thought an emperor was supposed to be. To understand this story, we need to look at the world of the late 100s AD. Rome is massive, rich, and armed to the teeth. It's not a democracy in the modern sense, but it still has old republican traditions. The Senate matters symbolically, laws matter in theory, and emperors are expected to at least pretend they're serving the state, not just themselves. For about a century before Commodus, Rome has had what historians later call the era of the 5 good emperors. These were rulers who, more or less, kept things steady: smart administration, strong borders, public building projects, relatively predictable politics. Not perfect, not gentle, but stable. And at the top of this golden stretch sits Marcus Aurelius. Yes, that Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor. A war leader, a stoic, a man who wrote meditations about virtue while dealing with plagues, wars, and the world's loudest job description. So when the Roman world looks at Marcus Aurelius, they're thinking duty, restraint, responsibility. The empire is basically a machine, and the emperor is supposed to be the calm hand at the controls. Now enter Commodus, Marcus Aurelius's son. And that detail is important, because many emperors before this were adopted as heirs, chosen because they seemed capable. Commodus is different. He's the biological heir. The throne is staying in the family. That sounds normal to us, like, of course the son inherits. But in Rome, it's risky. It's one thing to pick the best candidate. It's another to roll the dice on genetics and hope the universe delivers another Marcus Aurelius. Commodus is born in 161 AD. He grows up surrounded by wealth, soldiers, tutors, ceremony, everything that screams, you are special. And when you're raised like that, you can easily start to believe the empire isn't something you run. It's something you own. And Rome, by this point, is also a place obsessed with image. It's a city of monuments, statues, parades, public games. Your legitimacy is not only about laws and armies, it's also about what people see and what they feel when your name gets announced. So keep that in mind, because Commodus is going to lean into the seen part of leadership and abandon almost everything else. Let's talk about his rise to power. As Commodus grew older, it became clear that he wasn't going to be another Marcus Aurelius. The sources describe him as vain, easily influenced, and hungry for flattery. Now, to be fair, plenty of young royals and heirs are like that. The problem is what happens when you give that personality absolute power. Marcus Aurelius, despite all his wisdom, still makes a very human choice. He puts his son in position to inherit. Commodus is elevated early. He's called Caesar, he's paraded as the future, and eventually he's made co-emperor with his father. Rome is being told, loudly and repeatedly, this is the next guy. Get used to it. Then, in 180 AD, Marcus Aurelius dies. And just like that, Commodus becomes emperor at around 18 years old. 18. Emperor of Rome. You can almost hear the entire empire collectively thinking, okay, but surely there are adults around him, right? And yes, at first, it looks like Commodus might actually be fine. He's in the middle of military campaigns on the northern frontier, and one of his first big moves is to wrap things up quickly. He negotiates peace and returns to Rome. Now, you could argue that ending wars is good. Soldiers get to go home. Money stops bleeding out. The public likes the idea of peace. But there's another interpretation, too. Commodus didn't want the grind. He wanted the spotlight. Frontiers are muddy and cold. Rome is where the applause is. Once he's back in the capital, Commodus increasingly hands real governing over to advisors and court officials. Sometimes that can be a smart move. Delegating is part of leadership. But in this case, it starts to look less like delegation and more like disinterest. It's like he's saying, "You handle the paperwork. I'll handle being iconic." And for a little while, this arrangement kind of works. Rome coasts on the momentum of previous decades. The system is sturdy enough that it doesn't instantly collapse the moment the emperor stops paying attention. But then comes the shift. The part where the vibes go bad. Because when you're an emperor who doesn't love governing, you still have one job you're going to do obsessively: protecting your own position. Commodus starts to see threats everywhere. Court politics in Rome is already vicious, but Commodus adds something extra: paranoia with unlimited authority. There are plots, real ones and imagined ones. People around him are accused of treason. Rivals are executed. Nobles are eliminated. And once you start purging, you create the conditions for more plots, because now everyone knows that staying quiet isn't necessarily going to save them. It becomes a spiral. Fear breeds conspiracies, conspiracies breed punishment, punishment breeds more fear. And while that's happening, Commodus is also getting more and more obsessed with image. Not the image of wise ruler or father of the nation. A different image. The image of a star. And this brings us to the moment that defines our story, the idiot moment. The decision that turns a questionable emperor into a legend of imperial absurdity. Instead of focusing on running the empire, law, finance, the army, provincial stability, Commodus chooses to become a celebrity gladiator. Let's pause on that. Gladiators in Rome are famous, yes. They're admired, sure. But socially, they're not equals. They're performers. Often enslaved or stigmatized. The arena is entertainment, and it's violent, and it's theatrical. It's not where a respectable senator wants to be seen, let alone the emperor. The emperor is supposed to sponsor the games, sit in the imperial box, and symbolize Roman order. The gladiators are supposed to bleed so the state looks strong. Commodus looks at that structure and goes, "No, no. Put me in the sand. I'm the main event." Now you might think, okay, maybe he did it once as a publicity stunt. No. This becomes a phase. A lifestyle. An identity. Commodus trains like a gladiator. He appears as one. He fights in public. He positions it as bravery, as godlike strength, as proof that he's more than just a ruler, he's a living hero. But there's a catch that makes it even more ridiculous. The fights are curated. Commodus isn't stepping into the arena for a fair contest where he might lose. Rome isn't watching a real showdown. They're watching imperial theater where the ending is guaranteed. He fights opponents who are set up to be defeated. He kills animals in staged hunts. And because it's the emperor, everyone has to clap. Imagine being in the crowd thinking, this is insane, but also knowing that not clapping enthusiastically enough could ruin your life. So Rome applauds. The Senate applauds. The city applauds. The empire applauds. And Commodus takes this applause as confirmation. Not that he's being tolerated out of fear, but that he is adored. And then he turns the volume up. He starts renaming things after himself. Not subtle things. Big things. He leans into this idea that Rome should reflect him personally. The city, the institutions, the calendar. Everything is up for rebranding like he's running an empire-sized influencer campaign. It's the ancient world version of slapping your name on buildings, products, and holidays. Except the product is the state and the brand is one man's ego. At this point, the Roman Empire is no longer being governed like a machine. It's being curated like a performance. And when the emperor treats the empire as a stage, the people around him learn a dangerous lesson. The fastest way to survive is to tell him what he wants to hear. That's how you get bad policy. That's how you get corruption. That's how you get decisions optimized for vanity instead of stability. Now let's talk consequences, because even when an empire looks shiny on the surface, there's always a bill to pay. Unsurprisingly, Commodus's choices have consequences. For starters, His obsession with spectacle and personal grandeur undermines the legitimacy of the office. The emperor isn't just a person. In Rome, the emperor is the center pin holding together military loyalty, elite cooperation, and public confidence. When elites, especially senators, see the emperor behaving like a performer, it's not just embarrassing. It's destabilizing. Because it suggests that decisions are emotional, impulsive, and driven by personal obsession rather than strategy. And when the emperor is unpredictable, the court becomes a knife fight. People jockey for influence. Advisors rise and fall fast. Accusations become a weapon. And because Commodus is paranoid, the stakes are life and death. Meanwhile, the public games don't come free. The more you treat entertainment as governance, the more resources you divert toward spectacle. That might win cheers in the short term, but it weakens your ability to handle real crises. And speaking of real crises, Rome is always juggling threats, border pressure, economic strain, local unrest, administrative friction across distant provinces. Those problems don't go away because the emperor is busy cosplaying Hercules. Eventually, the pressure builds inside the palace itself. Because the inner circle, people closest to Commodus, start to believe they could be next. That's the thing about a paranoid ruler. Even loyal servants know loyalty might not protect them. So a conspiracy forms. Not out on a battlefield. Not from some distant rebel general. Right inside the heart of power. And in 192 AD, Commodus is assassinated. The detail that makes this story feel like it was written by someone with a dark sense of humor is how it ends. Commodus is killed by his own trainer, someone physically close to him, someone tied to this gladiator identity he loved so much. It's like the empire finally says, "Fine. You wanted to be a fighter. Here's the real fight." Now, what happens after that is messy. Rome doesn't smoothly move on like nothing happened. Commodus's death ushers in a period of instability, rapid successions, power struggles, and the sense that the old era of calm leadership is fading. And that brings us to his legacy. Despite the chaos of his reign, Commodus leaves a lasting mark on history, partly because he becomes a symbol, the moment the empire's leadership starts to feel more like a lottery than a system. Historians often talk about Commodus as the pivot point, the end of the relatively stable run of good emperors and the beginning of a more volatile phase. That doesn't mean every problem starts with him, and it doesn't mean Rome was perfect before he arrived. But he represents something important, the danger of unchecked power mixed with a person who confuses attention with respect. And there's another legacy piece here that feels modern: image management. Commodus understood that spectacle moves people. He understood that if you can dominate attention, you can shape reality, or at least you can try. He didn't invent propaganda, but he leaned into the logic of it. Make the public see what you want them to see, and maybe they'll stop asking inconvenient questions about competence. The problem is that propaganda can't do your job for you. You can rename months all you want. The border fort still needs supplies. And so Commodus becomes a cautionary tale about celebrity leadership, about what happens when the leader wants the spotlight more than the responsibility. All right, it's time for the royal idiot verdict. So how should we judge Commodus? On the royal idiot scale, I'm giving him legendary idiot. And I don't say that lightly, because plenty of rulers have made brutal, selfish, or incompetent decisions. Commodus stands out because his defining choice wasn't just a bad policy. It was a complete misunderstanding of what his role was supposed to be. He inherited an empire at relative stability, with the prestige of Marcus Aurelius behind him, and he treated it like a personal brand launch. He let paranoia rot the court, turned governance into theater, and tried to rewrite reality by force of ego. He didn't just fail to live up to his father. He took the office of emperor and made it about him in the most literal, performative way possible. He inherited the Roman Empire, and turned it into a stage show where the star demanded applause at sword point. Next time on Royal Idiots, we'll explore the story of Elagabalus, the most chaotic emperor in Roman history. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the podcast and share it with a fellow history fan. And the next time you hear someone say, "Power reveals who you really are," remember Commodus, because sometimes what it reveals is a person who would rather be famous than capable.